Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Talking in Stations Midweek Update. This is Season 1, Episode 7, titled The Black Market. And that is for very important reasons, which we'll be discussing later in the show. And we're going to be discussing them with our special guest today, Alekseyev Karrde. Say hi, Alec.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Alec is CEO of a corp called Capitalist Army, also CEO of the alliance The Network Dot, former CEO of Noir. That may be where you have heard his name in the past. I am Artimus Albosa. I'm in his corp, by the way, the network, or pardon me, Capitalist Army within the network. And joining me today, as always, my co-host RonUSMC.
Your friendly neighborhood dinosaur.
And we have Silver Suspiria as well.
The eagle on his back.
I gotta say, Ron, I really want to get you a t-shirt with the polo guy, but instead of riding a horse, he's riding a dinosaur. That would be fantastic.
Yes.
For our podcast listeners, Ron is wearing a very, how would you describe that? It is
Pronounced horse.
Yes, pronounced polo design.
It's very fancy.
All right.
I kind of want to play golf with him. I don't know why.
I'm ready.
Wait, is that what you do? Is that a golf club he's swinging? I thought it was a...
No, it's polo, but...
It's a polo mallet.
But, you know, folks still wear that kind of thing on golf courses.
Oh, yeah.
No.
It's the rolling green plains. There's an affinity there. What can I say?
That's it.
I'm showing my lack of cultural awareness here. Let's jump into what I'm more familiar with, and that is stuff that is happening within EVE Online, a spaceship game. So recently, a bunch of spaceships died over a particular Fortizar that is anchoring in a very special place. Alec, you want to run us through what happened? What did you do?
I'm got this, for the podcast listeners, this very smug look on my face, considering all the work that went into getting this thing done. It feels pretty good that we actually managed to be successful here. We launched a Fortizar into 9UI Providence. 9UI is one of the most storied systems in EVE. It was host to Unity Station. There was major wars over it between Jericho Fraction and Ushra Khan and CVA, Curators Veritatis Alliance, or the hell their names are. Now it's controlled by Provi and has been for a very long time, but it wasn't always that way. And regardless, it was always one of the most interesting regions in EVE, even though it was one of the relatively space poor regions of EVE. Because of its geography, because of the pro-neutrals flying around stance of all the groups that bothered to fight over it, it was a really great, target-rich, easily accessible, fun to roam through environment. So even if you didn't live there, you always wanted to go there because you knew if you head in there, you would get content and probably get some fights from the guys that were trying to chase you out of there. So it's just always been one of my favorite regions, and I'm happy to put this Fortizar down in the middle of it and open it up to basically everyone. All the roamers that come in there looking for fights, all the NPSI groups like Spectre and Bomber's Bar that occasionally run content either in there or in nearby catch. To very recently, some of the guys like Wrecking Crew and Honorable Third Party, they've come in there and tried to add their own kind of PvP to the area and are fighting against the odds kind of against CVA to keep their presence and foothold there. And, you know, hopefully over time, the Provi block alliances themselves, if not CVA proper, certainly some of the other alliances that live there, to offer it up to them as well, that they can have access to it and resupply their own members in a way that's more convenient or cheaper than some of the existing markets they have access to, all without going back to Empire and taking a break from the fun. So it was a pretty big deal. The market is now up and running. The station is open for business. We are going to be stocking it more over time, but we also invite anyone else that has the capacity and interest to put their own items up on the market and try to make a little money for themselves. It's capitalism, baby. Open competition.
I Okay, that's really interesting. So, is the intent from what you explained was to sort of fuel the conflicts there, give people access to markets so they don't have to go back to Empire Space to repair or to rearm, stuff like that. But it's also market PvP to the locals. Like, why was it seen as so hostile, and why did you get such a spirited response to the anchoring?
Well, CVA, like I've said, they've been running Providence for a very long time. I've got a long history in EVE with them, pretty much all on the antagonism side. You'll hear a lot of stories about their famed kill on sight list, the Pravi Red list. You'll also hear tons of stories about how they add people to it randomly. I can confirm that that's true. We back in Nora's early days, we got hired by a Providence Alliance to help them clear out Reds, basically. And because we looked like pirates, air quotes for the podcast listeners, we got tossed on the red list by CVA anyway. So that kind of kicked off our relationship, and it's kind of ebbed and flowed, and we've had some interesting interactions over the years. I knew from working with them that there was absolutely no way they would be okay with a Fortizar in their, what is essentially the headquarters of the Pravi Bloc coalition, that did not follow their kill on sight list, which I have no intention of respecting. So I didn't even really bother with that. Instead, I looked at who else in the area might see this for what it is, which is a really great opportunity to do something cool for the EVE community and help kind of inject new life into what has always been one of the traditional content hotspots in EVE, but has sort of trailed off maybe a little bit from its height. What could we do there? Who could we talk to? Eventually reached out to and made partnerships with Tactical Supremacy and some of the other guys in Catch. And they were on board pretty much from the get-go. It took a little bit to get the details nailed down, but once they were, it was like, oh, this is awesome. This is going to be so much fun. It's going to generate a lot of content. We can really see the value for us, and we think it's a cool thing to do for the community. We're all in. Let's go. So once I got that okay, it was more like picking the day, picking the time, getting everything in place, speaking to the other alliances in the area to make sure they knew what was going on and we wouldn't have any weird surprises during the op. And then, boom, we pulled the trigger and put it down. And sure enough, Pravi did come, anchoring a non-aligned citadel in a Sov space system really extends the anchoring timer. So they had a good 6 days to prepare for the fight, and they did not disappoint.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously this... Go ahead, Artimus.
I was going to say, I've got the BR pulled up right now on the stream for people to see, but the fight, Pravi brought carriers plus fax plus armor materials, and they sino-jammed the system, which threw us for a loop. We should have planned for it, or planned better for it, I should say. So it ended up happening.
We knew. We knew.
I didn't.
It was a possibility. We knew it was a possibility. They waited till literally the last couple hours before pulling the trigger. But we were already had contingency plans in place as to what we do if that happened, which is what we did wind up doing. But go ahead.
I was sitting there like an idiot at my computer with my battle work ready to go and no way to get it in there. So I had to piggyback off of the plan which Alec brought up with Tactical Wattage, which I guess is what their coalition is called, the mini coalition, sub-coalition, which is they sinoed all of their super capitals. They really brought the hammer down. So they brought their super capitals, their titans, into a neighboring system on the gate and then jumped them in to 9UI via gate and then warped on top of the carriers to get in and have this fight. So it ended up being 120 on the side of the network and Tactical Wattage, and then 77 on the side of Pravi. It was insane. So when this fight goes down, right, all the super capitals are warping in. Sabers are trying to bubble as many caps as they can. I'm there in my battle rifle. But the supers and everything landed 100 kilometers away. And mid-warp, the FC, Faulty, he calls, okay, Titans, free fire your DDs on carriers. Lock up a carrier and DD it, pick one close to your name. And so I'm sitting there in my Rorqual. I'm out of drone control range, so I'm locking up all these characters, watching them just go boom, 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 die one after the other. And I have to quickly try and launch a mobile micro jump unit so I can jump in and get on these kill mails. I don't get on a single freaking carrier kill mail. Those caps evaporated so quick.
Yeah, I was almost surprising they weren't like AoE DD'd, because I was not clear like what their Doomsday fit / strategy was. All I heard was the order to do the Doomsdays. My carrier warped slightly behind the Titans just because they were said only supers, and then all the non-super capitals went through. So I like held off a little bit. When I landed, carriers were already starting to die, and so many died in such a big chunk. I was like, oh shit, did they get boson? Or like, what lanced? What happened? It just pop, 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 pop. A fair bit did wind up warping away. At least that was what was reported, I think, because either some of them escaped the bubbling or maybe they smart bombed a few bubbles off. So a chunk did escape successfully, but the rest were just, it was brutal. There were quite a few left and some max left for cleanup. I was there in my carrier. I didn't really get on tons of mails. I was trying to get on what I could, but they were dying really quickly.
Gotta get a horror painter.
Yes. But to their credit, CVA almost pulled the objective off. I think the fort survived with about a third structure, and there were still a couple minutes left in the timer. So they really tried to focus on the objective rather than the fight, and I feel like they had a pretty good showing. Certainly generated more pilots in that time zone than I was personally thought they were able to do, but we as in mostly tactical wattage, not necessarily us, were able to generate tons more pilots than I expected on their side. So turnout for both sides was really strong. I think it speaks to how excited everyone was for this. Excited on the wattage side, probably really pissed off and or scared on the Provi block side. But either way, it was a great content for the Australian time zone.
For anyone wondering, tactical wattage is a combination of tactical supremacy and dangerous voltage. Those are the two. So you've got now a black market within Providence, but this isn't the first market you've launched to be a freeport market in nullsec, right? We've got one somewhere else, don't we?
We do, out in the Great Wildlands. That's been our starter project, and it's gone really well. In fact, I wasn't even that shy about it. I was like, look what we've been able to do for a region that has been super quiet. Look at all the activity and support we've been able to bring the alliances there, and use that as kind of a case study for, hey, let's bring this to a place that's already a little bit popular, and let's take it to the next level. And I think it was compelling. Like, we've had pretty good results out there. No one really thought anything of Great Wildlands for a long time. A few alliances were in there when it kind of like popped up on the map and we decided to go there. But in terms of the game as a whole, it's historically never been a very used region. Its geography is super weird. It's got 3 NPC stations right next to each other, and they're like 2 or 3 jumps outside of the low sec gate, and that's it. And some of the systems have like insanely long warp things and all that stuff. So despite having tons of regional connections, no one ever used it for anything. Now with Citadels, you've got small gang alliances putting down roots, living in there. And with our hub, we're basically able to bring JITA to a place that's really far from JITA and just enable those alliances to live out there more easily, focus more on the fighting. And the fighting has been good. Even the presence of the market hub itself has driven a lot of conflict, sometimes hair-raising conflict. But what was it? This past summer, we basically had really awesome small gang capital fights, like 10 versus 10, 15 versus 15, 20 versus 20 caps. Almost every day for 3 or 4 months in a row. That's awesome. So to be able to do that for an area, and I'm not taking sole credit, there were a lot of alliances that participated in that on both sides to make that happen. But to be a part of that and like help be a catalyst for that in an area where nobody came, no one paid it any mind, and to have it like pop into the New Eden Report, pop into Talking Stations as a thing people cared about, even briefly, that's awesome. If we can do anything remotely like that for Providence, which is already on people's minds, already a destination, I think we can really make something special happen out here.
Test is sort of a market connoisseurs. No, I'm just kidding. I was trying to follow the thread, and so CVA, are they the kind of like overarching sort of like father figure of Provi kind of thing? Because they had these people were like posting these weird rules, and like the CVA region rules and the cost list, and I had no idea like what was going on.
Yeah, they're very proactive with how they administrate the region. They care about their cost list like other people care about their renter empire. Like, they rigidly enforce these rules. They expect everyone in their coalition to abide by them. What CVA says goes for all those groups at any given thing. I've seen them like regularly interject themselves into internal alliance affairs of the various groups that live there. And those groups, sometimes they're not happy with it, but for the most part, they understand that that's how things go. That's just how that coalition is run. CVA has tons of power, a lot of top-down control, and a lot of, I would say, older players entrenched in those positions of power. And what they say goes, and everybody else goes along for the most part. You can talk to Yin Tan about how frustrating that can be for some of the younger talent that's really trying to lead and step up and take things in a fresher direction, facing that kind of resistance. But it is what it is. CVA and the way they run things, in part, is part of the special sauce that makes Provi so interesting. So while we are, by default, antagonists against one another, I don't want to like totally malign them. They're like a very integral part of the ecosystem out there, and I have seen Provi when CVA is totally kicked out of it, and it's not nearly as fun as when CVA is there. So CVA and Provi Block and all those guys, this isn't like an eviction thing. That's not what it's about. They're not going to like us there, but we like them there.
So have you considered are there unintended consequences, or is every aspect of that fort anchoring part of the goal? Because, basically what you've done is given safe haven to any enemies of CVA to freely camp, freely attack from there, reship quickly, even stock assault fleets. Is that all intended?
Yeah, it's not intended that the result is they get completely evicted from their space or even evicted from the system at all. But part of this is understanding that we're doing kind of a CCP-ish thing, which is like, here's this new thing. Let's see what the EVE community does with it. Definitely making camping a lot easier in the system is a thing. Personally, that's one of the things I'm most looking forward to, considering the gate traffic and gate layout in 9UI. I'm looking forward to some really cool gate camps, which is content that I haven't really been able to access in Great Wildlands because the traffic is really low. You need to roam out there to get any kind of targets. You can't let them come to you. So for me, this is going to be great. This is something I haven't done in probably 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, seriously. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure there are other alliances where the reverse is true. Like they want to get in Rome, and now they can without having to worry about going through 0-0 entry systems and the constant bubble camps that are there. They could park jump clones and assault frigates in the Fortizar, pop in, do a day trip or something, pop right out and go back to whatever they were doing. So, yeah, it's kind of expected and understood that this will make CVA's life in 9UI a lot harder, potentially, but one of the consequences could be they, take some nasty hits as a result of that. I don't hope that's true, but if it is, then that's what it is. I would happily open the Fortizar back up to them so they could retake their space later. Like, it's all about driving the conflict rather than making sure one side wins it.
So if an enemy decides that that's going to be their staging for an assault on CVA, you won't change the status of Freeport or yank anybody's access. It is what it is at this point. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I mean, so when we went into Great Wildlands, it was with the blessing of the local alliances that kind of held the power in the area.
Uh-huh.
And so I happily said, sure, if anyone is using this as like a primary staging point to like kill all your structures and evict you from the area, yeah, that's not cool. Totally fine with saying, in that case, we'll restrict their access and not let them use it. On the CVA side of things, they're like actively prevented the Fortizar from going up, which I don't blame them for. But at the same time, it is in our strategic interest to make sure they have other stuff to deal with besides us. So I'm not in a big hurry to prevent people from attacking them. At the same time, if they somewhere down the line wanted to go, hey, we've decided not to like object to your presence here anymore on this condition, I would be open to having that discussion. But right now, that's not happening.
Really interesting.
Yeah, this isn't like a Freeport just for Freeport's sake. It's not a stupid Freeport. If people are trying to shoot it, they're not going to be able to dock there. If I'm a mercenary by heart, as Artimus knows. Once mercs set a contract, we don't break it. So if I make a diplomatic deal with someone for whatever reason, that's going to get enforced. In the Great Wildlands case, we never necessarily needed to do that. The only people that were trying to evict the alliances that were helping us also actively shot the station. So there is no question. But would it have come up that someone that didn't aggress the station was using it to evict everyone that was helping protect it? There's absolutely no question it would have revoked their access to do that. Likewise, if I give my word to CBA or Tactical or whoever, like regarding the station or some contingency plan for it, I'm going to keep that promise as long as they keep their end.
It's also worth noting that Provi isn't in a vacuum, right? So if some group tries to come in and evict Providence, we aren't the only group whose best interest is served if Provi block still lives in Provi, right? You've got HTP, Honorable Third Party, you've got Waffles who hang around there a lot. You've got all these groups who love to fight Provi, but their enjoyment of the game, their content would dry up if Provi were to be evicted. And HTP...
Sorry, Kat. I was going to say, hasn't a question to Ron? Hasn't Test helped Provi recently? Like, you guys are sort of friendly with them, right?
Yeah, I have a comment prepared, and you should just direct that towards our lawyers. Thank you. We actually had Faulty on the show. It was like 4 weeks ago, I think, and Test stance is Provi do Provi things, and Faulty is 2% of Eve is the Australian time zone. Sometimes we fight with so and so, sometimes we fight with so and so. Like, we just want to fight, and all right, cool, man. Like, it's no skin off our back. You guys are having fun. It's all good.
I think we do have to give a massive shout out to Faulty and his crew, because I think it's fair to say that they are the reason the Fortizar is there in 9UI right now, right? Is that accurate, Al?
Oh, absolutely. When I pitched this idea to Faulty, I had already pitched it to, or at least run it by Brave and other people. He was not nearly as skeptical as any of those guys. He was like, first 2 lines, like, oh, this is great. This is going to be awesome. So he's a very enthusiastic partner, and we've known each other for a while in Eve now. He's a great guy, and I'm super excited to finally, like, not just know him through, like, talking in chat channels or seeing each other at Down Under or whatever, but actually, like, in fleet with him working on something. It's kind of cool. So absolutely, Tactical Supremacy, their whole Tactical Wattage Coalition, like a bunch of alliances turned up. HTP, Volt's new alliance, which the name is escaping me, but and a few other smaller alliances came in. The Watchmen, I think, was there as well. they really turned out for us and showed a lot of support. We could never have done this on our own. It wouldn't even be possible on our own. So we are really thankful that we have great partners in those alliances. And I will sing their praises to the hills to anyone that asks.
Do they get special discounted rates at the market?
They do, as a matter of fact. I don't know if that's gotten out to their line members, but they get half.
Nice.
Half off.
Look
So,
at
yeah,
that.
any enterprising marketeers in tactical supremacy, if you'd like to undercut your your competition by several percentage points, feel free to dock up and drop your loads. So
All right, and thank you very much, Alec, for coming on and explaining to us the situation. I understand you have some very important work to go do, so we will let you get off to do that. Thanks again for joining us. Providence Black Market. The station is called the Black Market, right?
yes, the station is called the Black Market. We were bandying about a few different names. Ultimately decided to go with that because it is both pretty thematically appropriate, considering it is very unauthorized by Provi Block, and also a nice nod to Noir, which had to shut its doors this year, but actually back then it was taking, because we couldn't put them down, taking the station in 9UI, retaking it and putting it back to kind of the Unity Station freeport model was always something I hoped Noir would accomplish, and we weren't able to do that before it was time to close the doors, but we finally did it. So in a way, so it's a slight nod to them as well, and shout outs to the entire Noir family wherever they are right now. Also, my current corp is recruiting, so if you're hearing this, Noir family, come home.
Well, it's the same corp as Artimus, right? So we'll get the info.
Yeah, Capitalist Army and
channel. Okay.
Capitalist Chat, Capitalist Space Chat for corp recruitment, but also the network is the alliance that we started this year. I didn't really tell anybody at the time we were starting it to launch this 9UI project, but we were. So if any corps are interested and think what we're doing is cool and want to help defend it and support it and get more involved, I'd be really interested to talking with you.
Although one caveat would be, if you're joining with the intention of putting a market hub in Stain, I'm told that's very low on the priority list.
I mean, never say never, Stain guy. Site C? Never know. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
See you, Alex.
Okay, well, let's hop into other stuff that's been happening around New Eden. First of all, we've got a Keepstar that died in MTO2. Now, MTO2, help my memory here, that was where GOTG tried to anchor a Keepstar back when the DRF was still a thing, right? That's why I recognize that name?
I know,
I
Silver.
certainly hope.
Yummy.
Well, let's just quickly go here and check. First, Keepstar, it's dead.
Yep.
It was unrigged, but it belonged to a corporation called UAGs. And the story that we're getting now, these are Russian guys, and there's a divide between the Russian community and the English community in EVE Online, mainly because of the language barrier. It is difficult, even when you're trying to find someone who speaks English or someone who can translate for you in situations like this. But the story which we have gotten from the defender side, the UAGs, is there was a bit of a falling out. UAGs used to be a member of Dot Imbalance, but there was a falling out. UAGs left Dot Imbalance, and one of the previous leadership FC figures within Dot Imbalance and UAGs had foot the bill for this Keepstar. He considered it his Keepstar, and so when he and his corp left, he took the Keepstar with him. And a little bit of time passed. He goes AFK for a little bit, and then Dot Imbalance come in and kill the Keepstar. So that's what happened. That's why this kill mail has shown up. It's interesting that how in the world did he just take the Keepstar with him? It must have been his, right? If he just transferred it out, or at least he was very powerful in the Alliance.
Yeah, he might have just transferred ownership or something, and then
Yeah.
then went AFK or whatever, and they were like, well, if he's not going to be around, then let's kill it.
And the access list is controlled at the corp level, right? So you could just say this is mine and change the access list.
Oh, that is a very interesting note. That is controlled at the corp level. I did not know that. Also, it is correct that MTO2 was where GOTG tried to anchor a Keepstar back when the DRF was still a thing, and it died. So we confirm. Silver, I'm glad.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, so last week on the show, and indeed weeks before that, when you announced that you were moving down to Immensity, we were concerned, well, we were looking forward to the content that you would have, right, being right next door to Fraternity, a new place for your alliance to grow and flourish, but then you had a slight bit of a concern about Skill Yourself, who had started to become active in the area. What's an update on that?
Yeah, I mean, Skill Yourself has been slowly burning up their aggression in Immensia, particularly in Fed Up space because it is fresh Salve, so it's low ADM space. You can see that YTechF that you had there on the map. They took that iHub pretty quickly after we dropped it, like a day or two after, and they have RF to TCU today, and they have an Astra House down there. So they've been very, very active in the EU time zone in their strength, and we've had some skirmishes with them in the US time zone. It's been fun for us, but they've been doing a lot of damage. They caught a routing super 2 days ago. Poor guy almost got out. He broke off tackle and he jumped to a beacon, but that beacon was camped. So, they're showing that they are a very good PvP group and a rough one to handle. But we're lucky that we came down and there's content here. And even when they're not around, we took a roam through FRT space 2 nights ago. It was fantastic fun. Those guys really get riled up when you go kill their ratters. I just took assault frigates in there and had 2 Titans on me in a matter of a couple minutes. It's been fantastic. My group is very happy to be here. Morale is way up and PvP starting to pick up for us. So yeah, we're looking forward to more stuff with Skill U.
Really quickly, he said he jumped to a beacon. That's the new flex structure, right? The Sinus Oral beacon?
Correct. Yeah.
And so it was on grid with another Citadel for defense, presumably, but the Citadel, because it's not a pause, it doesn't have auto defenses, and so it was able to be basically camp.
Yeah, and part of the problem was a Fortizar too. Unfortunately, I think he panic jumped, right, and just picked the wrong one. Out of 4 choices he had, the poor guy picked the wrong one where there was no Keepstar. So somebody did man the fort, and there was a bit of a fight over it, but it was a bit too late. Just unfortunate. Good catch by Skill U.
And I think it's important to remember that Skill U are really good.
They are very good PvPers.
They're good PvP. That really this is kind of top tier, right? Nullsec fights, and you're getting some small gang stuff, and Skill U. We lost one of our great FCs over there a couple of months ago. Nice guy. And these guys are strategists, right? So they're just going to hard counter whatever you bring, and they're going to force you guys to be better. So yeah, I mean, I think you're looking at it with a great attitude, right? Which is, hey, it's fun, it's something new, and at the end of the day, the dinosaurs are right behind you, right? So it's not like you're going anywhere. You're going to be all right.
Skill Yourself has also got some new interesting things to deal with now. So we talked about almost, I guess, a month ago now, when Red Menace Coalition left Cache, it was taken over by Skill Yourself and their renting alliance, Circle of Hell. And so they just burned through, took all the Sovereign cash. It was presumably theirs. It seemed like there were a few residents, but it wasn't a lot of high activity. But now someone is starting to Entosis cache again. And so if you take a look at the map, if you take a look at the timer board, everything is, or a vast majority of things are reinforced. In fact, one system has been taken by a recently formed alliance that is amusingly called Entosis is a Good Mechanic, which is fantastic. And their corporation, it's a single corp alliance as far as I can tell. Their corporation is called Theme Park MMO. and they stuck out to me because of the names of their characters. It appears that this is just one dude and his SP farming corp that's doing this, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue for Skill Yourself to handle. But like their characters include a Jitterbug, they have got No Liquid Ozone, they have Sessions Change Timer, Space Paperwork Bitch. They've got, oh, what other names? They just got fantastically named alts that are losing T1 Entosis frigates out in cash, and yet they're still managing to Entosis like everything out there. An interesting thing
That's
to keep an
hilarious.
eye. Theme park MMO for
Yeah, that's funny. I think that's like Fozzie at work, right? You know, the fact that a group like that can sort of meme Sov is sort of it's working as intended, right? Like if you're not living there and focusing those ADMs, those windows are wide open. You can't watch it all the time. T2 Tosis Link will take them pretty quick, you know.
Yeah, if you look at the ADMs in cache, there are a few systems which are relatively high, but almost everything is still down at like 1 or 2 ADM level. So it is definitely ripe for the taking. And apparently, this one dude with his SP farming else wants to take.
Yeah, that's 18-hour windows, like in just a few minutes with a T2 toaster to light the map up. So.
Well, on the note, so cache used to belong to Red Menace Coalition, and when Red Menace Coalition retreated, they went back to what has been their home for a long time in period basis. And people started to notice, in fact, I think it was even posted to Reddit, that the sovereignty in period basis has started transitioning from the previous owners, which were Red Alliance and Midas 22, over to Condi, Goonswarm Federation. And so there's been a lot of questions, okay, what is happening here? Why is this Sov flipping? And I don't have answers for you. I have no idea what's going on. I don't know why the Sov is disappearing. I can't tell you it's definitely peaceful. There's no fighting happening over the Sov. There is fighting happening in the region, but that's mostly Ron's crew, Test Alliance, coming in there with raiding parties and killing the Ratters and everything like that. But as far as fighting over the Sov, this is definitely a mutual thing, or Red Alliance and Midas 22 have just completely given up and don't care about the space whatsoever, which I don't think is the case because the Ratters are still dying there.
Yeah, and on your screen there, the G Magic, as we call it, for Paragon Soul, that's right on our border. So I used to mine in G Magic, and the goons would always bring raiding fleets, and we send raiding fleets over there as well. And it's it's a lot of fun fighting back and forth. It's a lot of good content, but yeah, I don't know. I've heard that Red is moving, but I don't know the details of it or anything. But it's all good. I remember my first reaction is, where is period? Like, where is that? And then the second one was, that's actually really close.
Yeah, so for anyone who's unfamiliar with nullsec geography, period basis is just south of Delve. So it's adjacent to Delve. RMC has been an ally of Goonswarm Federation for years, and so they've been able to stay there sort of under the protection of the Imperium, or at least nobody's attacked them seriously with the intention of taking their space due to their proximity there. It's also adjacent to Stain and to Paragon Sol, which is the region that Test and Legacy own and send raiding parties through. I guess one final thing that we wanted to mention on today's show is I really wasn't even going to mention it. It didn't really seem significant to me. But what was significant were the reactions that we got. And Ron, you really wanted to talk about this on the show. So say your piece, man.
This is, I mean, so first, let's talk about what he did. So Guy goes and he's like, hey, you can't get 1,000 kill marks, right? And the only people that are at that kind of range or at that level are usually AT ships, right? And we've seen a few AT ships. They go around with those Chromoas and get these kind of little frigate fights, and they get 700, 800 kill marks. But this very special person is a hell. And what he does is he camps the faction warfare beacon in a hell cloaked up, 200 off the beacon. So the mechanics, right? So the mechanics of it are this. So you can't probe him down and warp to him. You can't do that because if you warp to him, you're going to warp to the beacon.
Yeah, I mean, you can probe him down, but yeah, you can't warp straight to him because it's dead space.
Right. So anything that warps to him is going to warp to the beacon, right? And it's going to be, and then the hell is going to be cloaked up. But, they were talking about in the thread that if he sees anything bigger, than a destroyer, he just warps off. So, this is like a 99.9% safe way to farm frigate kills with a supercarrier. So he'll have a little frigate there at the beacon, and that's just tackle, super tank tackle. Somebody warps in, he tackles them, he uncloaks the hell, and then he sends the fighters to him. It's one of the lamest things I've ever heard. It's like stunning to me how lame that is. Isn't that to you guys?
Well, unfortunately, Ron, there's nothing new. Us guys in faction warfare have seen this for many years. Remember those guys, Escalating Entropy? Were famous for that. They had a guy that would do it in Calgal space all the time. But yes, it's extremely frustrating because no matter how many times I tell my guy, you see this alt sitting outside is small, run, but yes, it's extremely lame because there's little to no counterplay there. And yeah, they just farm up kills and they think it's funny. And then usually it follows with some, local spurge about how we're noobs and I got you. It's
Well, so what you just said though, that's my like irritation with it. There's no counter, right? Like what you can't do anything. I mean, we were talking in public channel. I was talking to Elo, and I'm like, Elo, dude, am I missing any mechanics? Because the only way that you could possibly catch that person would be 2 command destroyers and a hick. You go into the beacon, and then you double jump, and you land perfectly on them, and then are able to hit point. And that's,
Nah, he's aligned, and yeah, as soon as he sees you spool, he'll be out. The only thing I could ever think of is he has to warp somewhere, right? And he's a big old super. So there is a chance that you can one-shot him with probes before he cloaks, warp Hicks, and then just drop a bunch of shit where he cloaked and try to decloak him. That could probably work, but you need some substantial balls to do that and be an excellent prober.
The thing that I love about this is, well, personally, I'm hoping that more people see what this guy does, and they think, ooh, I can go farm frigates in my super in faction warfare, and then we get a bunch of dumb super pilots who've only ever ratted in their super out in low sec, trying to gank frigates with it, and just super kill mills all day, every day. That is my dream that happens as a result of this nonsense. But personally, I am just happy with the amount of salt coming from both sides, because Ron is perfect example of this is dumb, this shouldn't happen. You've got Silver here who's just sort of accepted it. He's dealt with it for so long. Eyes glazed over is like nothing new. I'm sitting here just enjoying the show. It's wonderful.
The creme de la creme, the icing on top, and then the cherry is the long story he wrote, like this kind of role play story that was actually really well written, and he's evaded this and evaded that, and he renamed his ship the Lucifer, and then one of the top comments was, "That's a lot of words for saying you're camping a faction warfare with a hell." That's a lot of words for that. Come on, man. You're killing me with this.
And a lot of the people he kills are just new bros and T1 frigates who don't even know how they just died. What the hell just happened, literally?
Yeah, he's like one jump from a novice system. Come on, dude. Mm-hmm. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Very cool, bro. Yeah, it doesn't impress me much. It's nothing new, by the way, man. If he thinks that he invented some cool way to farm, it's been out there for years. People have always done that.
All right, well, that's about all we have for today's show. Had some fantastic times with Alec telling us about the new Black Market Citadel in Provi if you want to get to it. If you're probably KOS to Provi, so just search for 9UI, it'll be the only station available. Alternatively, just hop into Provi and open your structure browser. It'll also be the only station available. We also talked about stuff that's been happening. Keepstar's dying. A lot of fighting going on centered around Skill Yourself, interestingly enough. Some of it some of it seeming to be heating up. Some of it just seems to be troll toasting, and we'll keep an eye on it and keep you guys informed in the future. But that'll do it for this episode of Talking in Stations. Actually, before we head out, we should do shoutouts. Alec is gone, but he would definitely be shouting out both Faulty and his dudes with the Dangerous Wattage Coalition, as well as his corporation, Capitalist Army. Ron, you got any shoutouts for us?
I got a shout out for Perimeter Police Department, the High Sec SIG for test. You guys are doing great work.
How about you, Sylv?
I'll give a shout out to my Fed Up boys, especially the logistics crew. I mean, we've been down here for a little over a week now, trying to get spun up as fast as we can with this impending aggression, and we've really come up to speed very, very quickly. And we're into PvP now and back, starting to get into the swing of things, and I'm proud of you guys. Well done.
Oh, I know. I have a shout out. My shout out goes to Scourge Dot, because they're starting down in Scalding Pass. They're shooting at the Cure in the RNM pocket of northwestern Scalding Pass, and there are a bunch of fights that I'm about to put a jump clone down and go have some fun with. So shout out to you guys for bringing more content to my doorstep. All right, that'll do us. See you guys on Sunday.